When was the last time you heard someone tell your story? In the Hasidic tradition, there is a tradition that when you hear someone else tell your story, you know that you have been redeemed. I want to ask for a moment, what does that mean really? In our lives, we tell many stories. We tell ourselves many stories. We have narratives. And sometimes there's a story that escorts us for our whole life. I have a story that I was 3.5 when I made a pact with God about how I was going to live my life because I couldn't ride a bike that was my size because I was too tall. And I tell a story that was from that moment on, I made a pact with God that we were going to walk in the world together. There are stories that we tell ourselves. And how do we know if that's really who we are? How do you know if the stories you tell yourself are the stories that you really are? I bring this up here in our parasha because the Ma'or Einaim, Menachem Nachum of Chernobyl, he asked this question on the pasuk Vayigash elav Yehuda, and Yehuda approaches Yosef and tells the story over again, a story that they know. We know the story. We just read it a parasha ago. We know the story. Yosef knows the story. But the pasuk says he approaches him. Not even Yehuda approaches Yosef. That him, similar to Vayar elav Hashem beronei mamre. Hashem reveals himself, herself, itself to him, not to Avraham. That internal, that inner voice that's inside of us. And when we hear someone able to reflect to us that inner story, then we know that that story is a real part of who we are. It doesn't only exist inside of ourselves, but actually has a place in the world. Maybe we weren't ready to bring it out into the world. Maybe we doubted it. But when someone comes to us and tells us our story, similar to the way Yehuda is telling Yosef's story, at that moment, the windows of the heart open, the windows of the soul open, the tears come. There's a deep breath that comes when we cry, and then the abundance of the water that's shed from our eyes. I always say that tears are a mikvah for the eyes, and at that moment, our truth has a place in the world. When was the last time someone told you your story, and how did you react? Shabbat Shalom.